a quickie and a rewind of recycled stuff that keeps coming up every month, or every 6 months, so I'm going to do this ahead of time instead of trailing behind. Or maybe it'll be way too soon. Asteroid warnings. Now this is some calculations I did last year, I think for a different video channel, but here we go. Neptune is nearly 4 light hours from the Sun. So at a speed of about 50 kilometers per second for planets and asteroids, which is actually the speed they seem to run at, and they run in a linear, very predictable pattern, otherwise you wouldn't be able to predict comet or planet movement. They don't jump around. Even spacecraft don't do that. Now remember, from Neptune to the Sun at light speed is 4 hours. At 50 kilometers per second that an actual object can work, anything larger, anything an asteroid or bigger, we'd get 3 years warning for any Planet X, Planet 9, Planet 7, Nibiru that was as far out as Neptune and visible to amateur astronomers or anybody else with a decent telescope or better than decent telescope. And in order to keep that from happening, you'd have to convince every single person looking for asteroids to ignore something as big as an asteroid or bigger out by Neptune, which would be a major feather in their cap to discover. Pro tip, they're not going to ignore that, and they're going to publish information wantonly. And they'll just dump it to the internet. It's no trip from the... there's no trip from the observatory down the hill to send something. Nobody does. Everybody has a cell phone. You know that, right? Even in backwater areas. So it'd be instantly dumped. Someone would be a fool not to dump it and immediately take credit and try to get their name on it. Because they wouldn't assume that it would be dangerous. They would want to be getting their name on the latest thing discovered. And then after a while, a couple of people confirm it and say, yeah, it's headed towards the Earth, and it's going to be 3 years before it hits us. Yeah, and that's at maximum speed. That's maximum rational, intelligent, unless you're making up a fantasy universe where everything moves faster than the speed of light. And yep, there's a bunch of people on YouTube who do that. It would be 3 years to go from the orbit of Neptune in. And if it was anything the size of Neptune, which is the guess everybody makes about Planet X, Nibiru, whatever, no, it doesn't matter if it's a brown dwarf. It's still visible. It's just not as visible. It would definitely be visible in the infrared range, and again, there are people using telescopes to pick that up. It's not some highfalutin thing. You can actually just do this yourselves. Or you can lie about it and say that that's not possible, and we can never know. It's all part of some mystical plan. But it would only take 52 days for something moving at 1,000 kilometers a second moving towards us, but it would be a comet. So let's discuss both of those. Number one, I'm going to say it one more damn time. Anything bigger than a breadbasket, basically, is going to take 3 years or so to get into our solar system, and that's a long shot, literally and figuratively, of it hitting. I did a video recently where I discussed the fact that if you take all of the planets and kind of run them in a string, they'd fit between the Earth and the Moon. That's not an over-exaggeration. That's real. The solar system is mostly empty space. The major thing that influences things is the Sun. A planet even the size of Saturn isn't going to tug all the other planets. But if it was going to, again, it's 3 years. Big, large things don't move faster than tiny things like comets, because that's not sane to say that. And they also don't dart around back and forth depending on which way you're pointing your camera with your lens flare. That's not rational either. No one has to listen to that. No one has to, oh, well, we need to see both sides, and there are two sides to every story. No, they're not. No, there's the rational side and the sane side, and then there's the people who want to be let into the clubhouse and are told no because you don't know the secret handshake, or you just don't want to learn the rules. Like physics. Everybody in grade school, unless they're in a more modernized school system, is able to learn physics. In a guttural physical way, maybe, where they like experience it by falling down or playing games or throwing a ball around. They experience this. If you just do something on a merry-go-round where you throw a ball back and forth and have fun looking at the Coriolis effect, you'll learn about that. I guess we have to outlaw playground equipment because they might learn science by accident, right? Anyway, so we're going to take some examples here that are useful. A 200-foot diameter Tunguska boloid, the thing that I think it's called Tunguska. I can't pronounce it correctly. It's the one that hit and exploded over over Russia. That was a 200-foot diameter, most likely a comet, but we don't know. There's also the 60-foot diameter Chelyabinsk meteor that went off over Russia. Both of them were going 200 kilometers per second, just like the 10-kilometer diameter I can't pronounce it, impactor that left a 100-mile diameter crater in the Yucatan Peninsula 66 million years ago and took out the dinosaurs, most likely. That one released an explosion that was the equivalent to 100 trillion tons. Just think about that for a minute. Okay, that's obscenely huge explosion. That's continent-destroying explosion. Planet's still here. It killed everything off, and everything just sort of grew back. 66 million years ago. The 200-foot diameter explosion, that was a 200-foot diameter boloid that hit over Russia several, 100 years ago. Most people didn't know it happened, and it destroyed an area that was huge, but it didn't hit a populated area. The majority of this planet is not populated. The majority of this planet is ocean. Hitting the ocean would be disastrous, except that one exploded above the ground. That was 200 feet across. It really didn't hit. There's no crater. The 10-kilometer diameter object, however, did hit the Yucatan Peninsula and destroyed part of it. There's a crater in the ocean. Asteroid resonance and collisions can take 1 million years to occur to cause something to be dislodged. So, once per century, well, we got our one over Russia twice in 100 years. Of a boloid exploding at high altitude. One was 200 feet across, the other one was 60 feet across. That's about the range. Larger ones are once per millennia, and most explode in the upper atmosphere like a wrathful fire god's angry hammer. All this is confirmable due to the fact that meteors and asteroids and comets contain an element in a little bit different ratio than the Earth does. The Earth's crust lacks the amount of iridium, which is a specific element you find in these objects when they burst into dust over the atmosphere or whatever. The one that hit that impactor from 66 million years ago left a layer of deposits that included iridium at a certain ratio with other elements that was thicker towards there and then thinned out all the way around the rest of the planet. That's how we kind of figured out, yeah, that was probably the source. That's the current hypothesis, anyway. The boloid over Russia 100 years ago left that kind of thing too, but it mostly left shock diamonds and shock quartz. And the 60-foot one that happened in human memory, that some of us know about and there's videos of, didn't leave anything. It did leave some chunks in a lake. Most of it broke up. That's 60 feet across. You need something a mile across or something crazy like that to really get in. So let's review. It takes 4 years for anything bigger than a bread basket, bigger than a Buick, to get through our solar system. It's not going to the speed of light. It's 4 light hours from Neptune to here. And we can see Neptune through a telescope. So, not really a surprise thing. What happened with the one that happened over Russia, X number of years ago was, the joke is it came from the sun. It basically came at us at an angle that we couldn't see it at. So that does happen. But it's also possible it was something that was observed before and was just ignored. But it was 60 feet across. Not 200 feet, and sure as hell not 7 miles across, which is what took out the dinosaurs. And sure as hell it wasn't the size of Neptune or Uranus. And if you're going to claim that a planet is coming to the solar system that's as large as Neptune, but somehow it keeps darting around the sun as this permanent meme on the net, because you want to have YouTube videos, or you want to have the right to tell people, oh, I'm smarter than you. By misquoting these things? It's not working. Now, why am I bringing this up? This is an old story. I've got a bunch of them. I mean, this is an old file. I typed this one up a long time ago, revamping it. I want to bring up something simple. For those of you at the 10 minute and 30 second mark. Thanks for watching. This is the real purpose of the video. Why do we have rumor mongering? Why do humans do this? It's called storytelling. We do it for entertainment. We do it to share cultural components. We do it as a subconscious way of communicating our feelings and our fears. We also do it because humans are impish little monsters that like to cause trouble. See also everybody on YouTube. Now, here's the silly thought for the day. Some of you might know about this basic test. I call it chaff and winnow, but that's actually the wrong terminology. Of you tell someone a story specifically to see if they'll repeat it, and you tell everybody a different one slightly to see if they repeat it verbatim, and you can figure out who told the story. Sometimes this is called planning a false story or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, why do people repeat stories, and why is this useful? Okay, now let's go to the next step. I'm running a company, and I need to make sure that everybody who's involved in a project to do some secret design for a piece of software or a new computer or whatever, or a microchip, I need to know that they're capable of keeping their damn mouth shut so that we don't have somebody steal our idea. It's not some deep, dark secret. We're not doing anything illegal. There's no conspiracy. But I can't have them blabbing the information. I test them. I give them little bits of pieces of information as they first enter, just like everybody else, and I make sure that nobody notices that I'm not telling this person certain things. Every one of them has already passed the test that's above that level or has been there longer and knows you don't discuss things with anybody, including people you trust, because there is no need for them to know that. Unless you're working on a project together, don't do it. And it can be excruciatingly informal. And you feed the newbies tasks that are not necessarily, they're not secure or anything. You just wait to see if they tell anybody, even people in the same business or in the same job area, so that you know I can or cannot trust that person. And if you find out a person is incessantly repeating stuff, you deliberately give them fake stories to repeat so they'll confuse the hell out of your competition, and you never let them get near the beta product or the alpha product. You don't let them into the test room. They're not invited to the game. They can't come in and play with the new version of the software or hardware. They never get to play with the good stuff. No fun toys, just the old stuff. They get to play with used toys. They get hand-me-downs. The reason you do that is they've proven they can't keep their mouth shut. Again, nobody's doing anything wrong. You just don't want someone repeating the information ever. Now let's take this to the military status. You're in the Air Force. You need people who work at your location who will just never discuss works. No work at all. You can't do it. And if you strenuously explain this to them, they'll do what you tell them for a while, but their innate inability to keep their mouth shut won't come to the surface. You have to let it ooze to the top, like the frothy mix that sometimes happens when you're trying to get through the sewer pit. So you don't have a choice. You just let them, you find out, and you just exclude them from anything secure. Okay. Alex Jones repeats stuff constantly, and people repeat it. Do you get that if you keep repeating fake stories, everyone knows that you're not only going to repeat stuff, but you do not have the ability to double-check things to make sure that it's reliable. This is a social construct we exist in. Are you a reliable person in that you always say things that are not true? Are you always reliable in that you always make sure that you don't repeat something, at least unless it's factual? Or are you so reliable you don't repeat anything because there's no need to? And do you understand what need-to-know basis is, and when it started, what decade, and what immediately followed that, and what Area 51 and Groom Lake are? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with all that.